All right, congratulations. You are now towards the end of To Kill a Mockingbird. And this is going to be the chapter review and summary for chapter 29, 30, and 31. We're just going to finish out the novel right here. So in chapter 29, this is really just Scout retelling the story to Hecate. She realizes that the man in the corner is Boo Radley. And then we get to chapter 30. And Scout and Boo listen to Atticus and Tate argue from the porch outside about who stabbed Jim. Atticus thinks Jim killed Bob and wants him to receive the consequences, but Tate wants to call the death an accident. And so Hex says it was an accident and that Bob fell on his own knife, but he knows that it was actually Boo Radley who saved the children and stabbed Bob. Heck wants to keep the case low profile. And so if Hecate said, oh, well, Boo Radley saved these children, that would bring more attention to Boo, and that would do him a disservice because he already has enough attention. He's the ghost of Maycomb, basically. He stays pinned up in his house. Everybody thinks he's a monster and a weirdo. And so Atticus says that Jim needs to face the consequences, and Hecate argues with him. And so they are ultimately just going to say that Bob Ewell fell on his own knife. And so one important line in this chapter is when Hecate says, let the dead bury the dead. What does he mean by that? Well, it's kind of like an eye for an eye, okay? Tom Robinson is dead, and now Bob Ewell is dead. So let the dead bury the dead is what Hecate gets at. And then we have chapter 31. It's the last chapter in To Kill a Mockingbird. And Scout actually takes Boo Radley upstairs to say goodnight to Jim, and then she walks Boo home, and he goes inside his house, and she tells Boo bye, and then she never sees him again. And Scout imagines life from Boo's perspective, and I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of this novel, is that Scout in this chapter is literally standing on Boo Radley's porch, imagining what he saw. She's looking at life through his perspective, which is what Atticus has told her to do throughout this entire novel. And so she's getting an understanding of what Boo saw. And it's here on page 373 in this version here. Down here where it says, I turned to go home, the streetlights wink down the street all the way to the town. She's talking about, she's having like a flashback. At the top of page 374, it was summertime and the children came closer. A boy trudged down the sidewalk, dragging a fishing pole behind him. A man stood waiting with his hands on his hips. Summertime, and his children played in the front yard with their friend, enacting a strange little drama of their own invention. And so I'll let you continue reading it here. But this is a flashback, and this is Scout seeing everything that Boo Radley saw. And it's just a very beautiful moment here in the novel. And then after this happens, Scout, she walks home, and she goes to Atticus, who's sitting in Jim's room, and he reads one of Jim's books to her until she falls asleep. And so it's the gray ghost. Imagine that. Bringing the ghost back in, okay? It's the gray ghost. And so she talks about how, most people aren't as bad. She said, and they chased him. This is page 376. And they chased him and they never could catch him because they didn't know what he looked like. And Atticus, when they finally saw him, why, he hadn't have done any of those things. Atticus, he was real nice. His hands were under my chin, pulling up the cover, tucking it around me. Most people are, Scout, when you finally see them. He turned out the light and went into Jim's room. He would be there all night, and he would be there when Jim waked up in the morning. The end. And so most people are real nice when you finally see them, Scout. And Atticus isn't talking about physical appearance. He's talking about when you can see who someone truly is on the inside, because as humans, we innately judge others. It's just something that we do. We look at people and we judge them immediately, and we know we shouldn't, but it's just what we do as humans. And so here, Atticus is telling Scout, people are nice if we just look at them and we don't judge them by their appearance or what we hear, but when we really get to know somebody, that is when we learn our lesson. Let me know what your questions are. If you have any confusions over the last half of the novel. I hope you enjoyed the novel. Let me know what you think in the comments.